Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We're back again, another culture content. Before I introduce the topic, here's a quote just for this episode. History never looks like history when you're living through it. John W. Gardner. Today's topic, why millennials, or the fact that millennials value culture over play. Culture over play. Millennials prioritize culture over play. Do they or do they not? What is a millennial? If you have 30 days of thought in your lexicon, your library, at home, there's a excerpt. There's no such thing as a millennial. Go listen. And they can't listen to it. Go read the book and write your own thoughts of that. It'll be out soon, probably next year on the Culture Matters podcast. When we get to it every Saturday, or every week rather, 30 days of thought with friends. But what is a millennial? So what is a millennial? What is this, why is this a significant conversation? I think it's a significant conversation because looking at this topic made me think of what is actually happening in the world. Where could things be going? What could we learn from the past of how to take advantage of the now? Because a handful, like a whole stream of thoughts came in when I looked at this topic. Are millennials actually prioritizing culture over play? What is culture and what is play? But a millennial are typically defined as those born between 1981 and 1996. They are referred to as a also known as also known as Gen Y or yeah. Millennials came of age during a time of rapid technological advancements, globalization, economic shifts. See, there's two big events. Being a millennial, actually myself, 91. So they said 81 and 96. So 81 as of this year, that's like probably 43, 44 to 96 is for 28, 27, the 27 to 44 or 20, like range of person. Maybe you're a millennial listening to this, or maybe you're a different generation wondering how do I motivate my staff that are millennials? How do I incentivize them? What do they need that I didn't need? Or what do they have that I didn't have? I mean, that's the conversation that I'm going to have in brief with you today. Uh, do the millennials prioritize culture play? Why do they do that? What is culture? What is play? So two of the big events that happened in that millennial time, right? We have 9/11 on September 11th, 2001, and we have the Great Recession. It's interesting because if you think about those two events, one was an attack on our culture that divided the country in a very big scale. So like if somebody's born in 1981, it's 2001, they're 20. Um, there's 20-year-olds, right? Then there's 96, there's 5-year-olds. I remember being in, I don't know, seventh grade, sixth, seventh grade, or eighth grade or something, seventh grade, sixth grade, no, fifth grade. Oh my God. I'm born in 91, so that was 2010. Yeah, fifth grade. Miss Youngster. Pretty sure it was Miss Youngster. She was a great teacher. And that was a pretty impactful day. I remember having a friend, good friend, who was from the country that these, I don't, you don't know what is a terrorist at 10 years old. It sounds, how do you comprehend that? I had a friend from that country and he got bullied and was in a lot of fights that day. I remember that. I wonder how that impacted his next 20 years. Interesting how our experiences can impact our life. But what's even more interesting is how experiences and events of the world can impact generations. So like we have these two events of the millennials, right? And like Yeah. So one is this attack on our culture by another culture, a culture that we are unlikely, to know about or understand if we haven't taken some kind of crazy history classes or geopolitics, political science. If we have a certain degree, we probably have never heard of the country that actually attacked us in 9/11. We don't understand the rituals, the beliefs, the history, the stories, is the humanness ingrained in our society? No, that's unlikely. But we're being attacked, and politically, there was a divide of like how to respond, and are there weapons of mass destruction in a country nearby? That was the Iraq, and what influence, what psychological impact could that have had on that millennial generation? Well, it's going to have some impact because the things that happen in our life impact how we perceive the world, what we pursue, what we don't, what we know and what we don't, what we think we know that we don't, what we know, what we think we don't know that we do. Then we have 2008. It's another big event, notable event, the Great Recession. The Great Recession changed my life. I know that. The Great Recession led us to move because of loss of income. The Great Recession had a monumental impact on the trajectory of my life. And who knows, maybe I wouldn't even be doing this podcast or have Culture Matters as a business advisory firm if it wasn't for the personal events that transpired as a consequence of the economic calamity that impacted my family. Who knows? So, but we have these two interesting events. One is cultural, like the geopolitical, um, struck to the very core of the identity of our society. Like, why are we being attacked by these terrorists in another country, a far off place? Where do these enemies come from? Why do we have them? That's going to lead to questions, dissent, curiosity, contempt, infighting, a challenge of values, a challenge of identity of the culture. Then we have the money. There's in 2001, 7 years later, 8, 9 years later, there's the financial system falls apart. Apparently, there were the powers that be who were making it possible and even easy for everyday people to gain assets, to gain homes that they otherwise wouldn't. If there was normal regulation or a higher degree of regulation, they wouldn't have been able to get in those homes. Ultimately, in the Great Recession was a consequence of people being able to get into homes that they couldn't afford. And the grayness of like who's responsible? Is it the customer? Is it the salesperson? Is it the company? Is it the people that provide the credit to the companies that employ the salespeople? Whose fault was it? Was it Wall Street? Was it the money people that are exchanging these mortgage-backed securities? Was it the people that came up with the idea of selling air or like probabilities of what potential future possibilities could happen as a consequence of investing in these different portfolios? Was it the mathematicians that might have played a role in, hey, if you mix shit with shit, you get high protein diet? I'm referring to the tranches of like really, what was a it was these pools of loans, right? These obligations to pay from everyday people that, let's use it like just a micro example to keep it simple. Sally and Sally and Bob, they want to buy a house and they get approved for a house with no money down and they don't have a job. They get approved at a rate that's cheaper than their rent. They have no job. They're living on, they have living off some Social Security. They have no job. They get a house cheaper than the rent with a rate it's not fixed, so it's gonna go up at some point. And there's a massive commission tied to it of someone that may or may not be well-being, but may or may not have the education level, the experience level that's caught up in the hoopla of the times. There's companies incentivizing them with a pay structure because they're being given massive multiples on their sales of these books, of these pools of shit, these loans given to people that are not at the level of education, awareness, life experience, potentially even values. And maybe they did have the values. Maybe they would have made it, but that Lollapalooza, as Munger would put it, everybody's not even paying them, not even paying the loans back. Let it go. Now the whole system's collapsing because these products were sold and resold and repackaged and resold throughout the entire system. The world is crumbling. Now, what does that do to America? What does that do to the perception of America in the world? It lowers our credibility. And the world is run by credibility. The world is run by MAD, mutually assured destruction. It's run by the balance sheet of weapons and the perception of value, the perception of usage. It's run by strategy, strategists, omissions, and false promises. I think it was like Napoleon. The ruler is the dealer in hope. They're like, if you want to be successful in the world, promise everything and give nothing. Is that cynical, or is that just Napoleon telling the truth? That's the liar's paradox, right? So there's some notable events. I mean, you have a culture war happening geopolitically with the 9/11. Our financial tower is going down, struck down by um, supposedly, Osama bin Laden and his claques. That's creating infighting in our political, in our infighting. It's a conflict of values. It's conflict of identity. Like, why are we being attacked? I haven't done anything. Why am I being charged? Or why me? The robber could have robbed all the houses on the street. Why mine? Were we prepared? There's guilt, there's shame, there's fear, there's uncertainty, there's anger, and there's division. Culturally, a lot of division. And then years later, the financial system implodes as a consequence of loose regulations, tremendous amount of money being incentivized, the general excitement of a strong ride in the markets after having come down from 2001 and the tech boom. We had a tech boom and bust. We had a housing boom and bust. The millennials have been through some cultural conflicts and some financial conflicts that impacted the culture. So the characteristics of millennials, they're often described as being comfortable with technology and social media and are seen to be more open-minded and progressive than previous generations. I want to make a point on that this concept of like, if millennials actually do prioritize culture as in like um, experiences, people, um, places, right? Person, place, and not things. It's like, if that's true, more than play isn't materials, status. It's like, if that's the case, could it be a consequence of how we as individuals signal competence, signal value to future mates? In the absence of, so think about it, technology's advanced, the millennials, the what is it, 86 to 96? It was 81 to 96, yeah. So the rise of the internet, we can now, as consumers, we're impacting our individuality by investing in goods and services through the internet. It's faster, it's more trusted. They're what impact does that have on my identity if something takes less time, less money, and I get more from it? It's less of a sacrifice of time and money and energy, There's less of a value sacrifice. Does that inherently make us more self-oriented, selfish, individualistic, or at least individualistic? Are we more individualistic as a consequence of the internet, as a consequence of goods and services being purchased faster in shorter order, at cheaper, self-oriented? I don't know. Maybe. Then you have these social platforms that, man, the MySpaces, which goes into the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and it just keeps going and going and going. Our tribes are changing. It's not Dunbar's 150 people in a group. There's 150 people in your life. 150 close connections. Now it's 5,000 on Facebook, an infinite amount on Instagram. Or how can I get to a million? Or how can I get more fans? We're going from friends to fans. What impact does friends to fans have on a human being's ontology? Friends to fans, small community, massive community. Jonathan Haidt in his research, Ancient Generations, saying that we're losing little, kids born today in the last 10 years, less ability to read facial expressions, less empathy, more anxiety. Wow. The the human identity is changing. It's metamorphosizing. It's molting. I'm not making a value judgment. Something's happening. The tectonic plates are shifting. If I'm on the Instagram or I have the social platform and I can represent my authority, I can represent my status via here I am, here's my selfie. This is what I just did. This is what my story says. It's like a false positive. I'm getting a feedback loop that I've created value for the system the same way. I used to show status by going to, learning something through my selfishness. I want resources. I want mates. I want legacy, purpose, right? Like this is all below awareness. As I'm a human being, I'm a human animal, and I desire power, but I'm going to get competence on the way to power because I'm going to go through the system. It's going to take a long time. I'm going to go up and down and learn, and I'm going to fail, and I'm going to avoid hubris because I'll pray to God after I fail. Pride comes before the fall. Like the mediums are changing, the mediums are breaking down. So like what used to take 20 years is taking 1 or 2 or 3. On an extreme, it's like the OnlyFans, right? You can get rich in 5 seconds by commoditizing your spirit, by being eaten by the crowd at the lowest common denominator. You can make more than a CEO of Coca-Cola with the OnlyFans, man or woman or whatever one, and that identifies with that. This is an identity conversation, I believe. Why would millennials value the culture, right? People, places over things? It's an identity conversation. It's a status conversation. I can get more status from places and things than I can even from what I've accomplished. It's that net worth influence matrix. You have a square with 4 squares, like a vertical, horizontal axis, square box, 4 squares, high and low at the top, high and low on the top, and high and low on the left, and it's net worth on the top, influence on the left. If you're facing the square, you draw it out, influence on the left. It's like low influence, low net worth. That's just a fan. That's just fodder. That's a low value person. Low net worth, high net worth, low influence. That's less valuable than high net worth, high influence. And high influence, low net worth is a question mark. The Boston Consulting Group's matrix from the past can be applied to like humans, right? What happened with businesses is happening with humans. The personal brand is a foreshadow to the alteration, to the evolution, to the even or regression, depending on your opinions of human ontology. We are the business. We've always been it. but when you transcend the structure, it's just the human. What is that going to do to human civilization? Where the hell am I going with this conversation? What is a millennial? This is a human being that has been thrust where technology is integrating with the actual biology, the psychology, the the culture at every level, individual, family, faith, institution, nation, nations. At every level, the technology is the the offspring. The technology is becoming the host. If we're the host, we were once the parasite. We're the host. Now we'll be. If we were once the parasite and the host was the planet, the technology is the parasite and we're the host. What comes next will be a new host, a new parasite. We're the host that's a parasite. Yeah, there'll be something new. So do millennials value culture over play? Yeah, they fucking do. Yeah, they do. They do. It's the same thing in a different medium. It's like history. I got a lot more to say about this. This is like part one. Part one. Part one. Part one. Share this with a friend that gives a shit about these types of conversations.